it. And then there are a load of other things, which is that another one was perceptual. It was simply a perceptual problem. Now, let me explain this, okay? First of all, most video meetings took place in the early days as an alternative to a physical meeting. In other words, the physical meeting was possible and you decided to hold it over video. And that way, it wasn't quite as good as a physical meeting. And what people noticed was this is like a physical meeting, but it's not as good. Okay. What's happened now is people realize, well, I always say when people go, it's not as good as meeting face to face, I say, yeah, it's not as good as meeting face to face. Obviously, like a phone call isn't as good as like sex, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay,
Yeah.
we know that. What the point is the opportunity cost, which is there are
Yeah.
now hundreds of meetings taking place, which would never have happened at all had we not done video. Because I mean,
Yeah.
just meeting
Context
now,
frame is
okay.
way off.
So this meeting now would have involved, 6 weeks to organize, and it would have cost 300 quid in flight costs, right? So, realistically, it was probably not going to happen for a year and a half. You'd have to wait until there were 4 other things taking you to London. I'd have to wait until I got a paid speaking event in Holland. Then I get a paid speaking event in Holland, but it was at 5 o'clock and I'd missed the last flight back. So so we'd only get to meet for 10 minutes. And so it's always worth remembering a cost is always more visible than an opportunity cost.
I love that. I love that. I love that. But it's so hard to argue against because one is tangible and the other isn't. The other feels loose, hypothetical. It's the case that you make in alchemy. You make this case early in the book, I believe maybe chapter 1 or something. You talk about in advertising how cute animals, for example, can have a higher effectiveness than something which is logical. But it's super hard to present such an idea to a board. Or your airplane example. We should talk about cucumbers versus like our new fancy airplanes, and they're like, Rory, I don't know what you're smoking, but like, give me a little bit of that.
The marketing guy in BA, a very good guy, marketing and customer experience guy, was Dutch. Yeah. And every time he'd come up with these things, people, being Dutch, you're stereotyped as a pot smoker, you see, right? So everybody would go, Herman, what have you been smoking? They say, right? Okay. And he said, I get that like twice a day, and, being highly creative and Dutch is a double jeopardy because
yes.
not only does nobody understand what you're saying, but they assume you're under the influence of drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting.